Let's get the Liberal side of this equation now and catch up with Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Dave Sharma. Good to talk to you, Dave. A bit of stability when it comes to your coalition partners there, but you're looking at a pretty strong contest tomorrow between Angus Taylor and Sussan Ley. No one really keen to call it at this stage, suggesting the numbers might be fairly evenly divided, essentially the old Conservative versus moderate contest in your party.
Look, I think it is a close contest, and I think both candidates have, strong claims and credentials. Look, I don't think it's a straight sort of, factional vote, though. I mean, I'm sure there's elements of that. I'm not going to pretend there aren't. But I think, look, people recognise the size and the significance of the loss we suffered last Saturday, and they want to see whoever it is of whichever factional or ideological persuasion have a plan and have the courage and the resolve to see that through to help repair our political fortunes and broaden our appeal so we can be not only a good opposition but a party of government as well.
Look, Peter Dutton managed to keep the party unified through 3 years, which was often overlooked as a pretty difficult thing to do, and that's the most important thing. Also, you've got to come out of tomorrow. Do you fear you could come out as a party divided?
Look, I do worry about that. I mean, honestly, look, Peter Dutton during his time as leader didn't have any rivals of any significance, so he had a high level of authority, and it was the same really when Scott Morrison took us to the 2019 election. Now, obviously, this is a contested leadership ballot, and we haven't had one of these in the Liberal Party for some time, and certainly not in opposition. You'd have to go back almost a decade, I think. So, look, I do worry about that, but I hope we're all mature and, I guess enough of team players to recognise that whoever becomes a leader will need to have broad-based support and everyone pulling in the same direction if they're to have any chance of success. And ultimately, that's our most important interest as Liberals is the success of us as a credible opposition and an alternative government.
Now, how does the ballot work? Does the leadership ballot happen first, and therefore, if that happens, if Angus Taylor were to win, do you expect that maybe Sussan Ley would go up against Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price for the deputy's job?
Look, so I haven't been through one of these before, so I can't speak with any authority, Chris. But yeah, my understanding is that the ballots are separate, if you like. So there's a ballot for the leadership position, then a ballot for the deputy leadership position, and you only need to nominate in the room. So there's no, people could decide spontaneously tomorrow to put their hand up for either position, and they'd be perfectly entitled to do so. So, I think, there's some obvious pathways here, but there's also a couple of permutations that could come about that none of us are foreseeing just yet.
Now, if your coalition partners, the Nationals, went back to their position of opposing the net zero by 2050 targets, what would that do to the Liberal? Could the two parties actually have divergent positions on this key target?
Look, I think, without wanting to take refuge in that's a hypothetical, obviously these are the things we would need to work through. I mean, the Nationals has just selected their leadership team, but they're going to be reviewing their policies. We need to select our leadership team. We will need to be reviewing our policies. The two leaders will need to sit down and look at the coalition agreement again and figure out how we work together. But it's perfectly appropriate for both of our parties to review their policy agenda, have a pretty robust internal conversation and discussion about all of the suites of policies, be it energy, be it tax, be it immigration. All these issues need to be put on the table and canvass. And I think it'll take some time, to be honest with you, before we develop and put forward new policy positions on all of these issues.
Does it ever strike you as strange that the right of centre parties in this country continue to tear themselves apart over a net zero by 2050 target that Labor will not meet, and that no party in this country could possibly plan to meet on existing technology, and certainly not without a nuclear industry? I mean, it's just farcical, isn't it?
Well, look, I think certainly it's true around the world that the technology to decarbonise key emissions industries, whether it's cement production or aviation or gas extraction or manufacturing that uses gas, for instance, the technology is not there at the moment. And, that said, though, appreciate that there's a symbolism attached to the net zero commitment, that it reflects the sort of best endeavours aspiration. And I'm not oblivious to the importance of symbolism in politics.
Yeah, well answered. You got it all covered there, but yeah, it just seems madness. You could be full-throated on trying to reduce emissions and modernise your economy and do all that, and still ignore that artificial 2050 target that everybody is so obsessed with. Thanks for joining us, Dave. I appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow.